Hello. Good evening to you. You're asleep in a shoe. I'm leaving the post office. I just had to mail a bill. Yes, I'm old school. I still mail bills. Well, here's the Here's the deal. For our homeowners association fees, like if we do it on the computer, we have to pay $20 extra to use this online service, which I think is crap that they charge us that. And so I did it for like 3 months, and then I was like, this is ridiculous. I could be like, that's $20 that I could be using for something every month. So I started just writing checks again and mailing them. I was like, I'm saving $20 a month, you know? Was that $240 at the end of a year? I mean, that's a lot of money. So, yeah, I have had such a fantastic day today. And I'm excited for my day tomorrow, too. Tomorrow, I have to go into my office to write, because I'm very committed to that right now. Although I did that today, and it was very hot because my air conditioning wasn't working, so I only stayed for an hour and a half. But I'm going in there tomorrow for 2 hours, and then, because Tanya has some work to do in the morning anyway, and then I am going to hang out with Tanya tomorrow afternoon. We're going to go get a pedicure, and we're going to get her feet done, and I'm going to try to vlog the whole thing. Like, I don't know that I'll vlog in the pedicure shop, just because I don't know that they'll like that, number one. Number two, because it depends on if they have music playing. Usually they just have a TV playing with, like, the news on, but if that's the case, then I'll try to film some of it. But we're going to go do that tomorrow, and yeah. So my day, let's see. I got up and took the dogs out, gave PP his medication, started uploading my vlog, kind of just hung out for a second, and then I went and got coffee, and I went into my office for like an hour and a half. Like I said, it was so hot. The air conditioning wasn't working in my office, and I had to call my landlord, and they're changing over my landlord. It used to be this woman that knew my aunt and uncle, and she and another guy apparently own this building together. I didn't know that he was ever even part of it. But she's kind of like retiring, semi-retiring. Like, she's still involved, but she's like a silent partner now. And so he's taking over, like, he's going to be the one that's there, actually. So, my roof was leaking, ceiling was leaking earlier in the winter, and, he had the whole thing, like, sealed, like, last week. So I just talked to him on the phone. So I called him today. I was like, hey, can you tell me what's going on with the air conditioning? He's like, yeah, somebody's air conditioning kept on pumping on in the winter, and so we had to turn off all the units over the weekend because we couldn't figure out which one it was. And I'm like, well, I can tell you it wasn't mine, because I was, like, trying to keep the bill down this winter. And he was like, well, he goes, they should be back on it on Friday. So it'll still be hot when I go in there tomorrow, but that's okay. And he was real nice about the whole thing. So anyway, and they sealed my roof, and the roof, he's like, but it's not raining on your head anymore, is it? I go, no, it's not raining on my head. So that was earlier today, and then after I left there, I went and got a coffee, and then I ran to Costco to pick up my medicine, which I wish I would just call it PB's medicine, because one of his medicines I need to refill too, and so I have to call that in tomorrow and go pick that up on Friday. And which I could have just killed 2 birds with 1 stone had I got it then. And then what else did I do? Oh, then I went and got my headlight replaced, because I woke up and my headlight was out. And so I got a new headlight. That literally took like 5 minutes. And then I went and stopped by Tanya's kennel, and she wasn't there. So I called her, and she was at her house. She was sitting on her back patio. So I went over there, and she was having lemonade. So we hung out and talked for a little bit. It was beautiful today. It was like 82, 85. It was so nice today. I'm in just such a different mood when the weather is that nice, you know? It's like, it just cheers me up so much. So I sat there with her for a little bit, and I had filmed my video the night before that I put up today, because I was going to put them both up, but it got so late for my main channel that I put it up today. So all I had to do was film my booktube and my Peterisms videos today. But when I got home, I was like, it was in such a great mood that I was like, I'm just gonna keep on filming videos. So I have all of my videos for tomorrow already filmed. So all I have to do is post them. So I'm excited about it. And then if tomorrow I want to make videos, then I'll just continue to make videos in advance and have them for the next day. It's kind of nice because then I get to get my videos up sooner. I hate posting my videos so late at night. But after I've run errands, I need to just get up in the morning and that be the first thing I do. But like, I kind of like need to like wake up and feel alive and have my creative juices flowing, so to speak, before I feel like I'm ready to be filming anything, you know? So, but it's nice to have them ready. Like, mine are ready tomorrow. I have like the thumbnails up, I have everything done on them, just ready to post. So I'm gonna do that, and then if after we go get a pedicure, I don't know, we may do something after that. I want to get some, I cleaned off the front porch too, which is where I read typically. And I cleaned off the front porch, you know, cleaned off the glass table that I have out there and everything, and swept off the porch. So I sat out there and read today for a little bit. So now I'm ready to have my front porch reading area, and then when we get the door fixed in the back, whenever that happens, whenever we stop being lazy and have our friend come over, then that will be fixed and we can do that too. So I'll have that patio too, so I'm so excited. And then I did a live stream, and then Alex came home and we talked for a while. He went to go visit her friend that just had a baby. And I was going to go over there, but we're going to go and have like dinner or something with her and her husband. So I was like, well, I'll just wait till then. And the baby was so premature that like Alex couldn't hold it or anything. And so I didn't want to stress our friend out more by having a bunch of people over there. So anyway, yeah, that was my day. I had a fantastic day, and it was just fun. I drove around, listened to my audiobook. I'm almost done with my audiobook, Leah on the Offbeat. It's a young adult book. I wouldn't say it's my favorite that I've ever read. It's not bad. It's okay. It's by Becky Albertalli, and she's the one that wrote Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, which they made into the movie Love, Simon, which I really liked the book. She also wrote The Upside of Unrequited last year, which was a story about this girl, and she's straight in the book, but like all of the exterior characters around her, like her sister is a lesbian, and there's like somebody that's pansexual and somebody that's asexual, and Simon like makes a cameo in it. And it was a great book, and I loved that book so much. And I think like on the heels of that, I'm just a little disappointed. This isn't like the I don't know, I was just really ready to read a fun book. I've read so many great books in 2018 so far, that to like have my next book just be kind of like, blah, you know what I mean? Like, if you're an avid reader like me, you know what I mean? It's like when you're like, great book, great book, great book, just okay book. The just okay book is like, you're just ready for it to be over, kind of. So that was my day. How was your day? Did you have a good day? What did you do? Really? Well, that's cool. Oh, and Raw Beauty Christie, who you guys know I love, talked about me in one of her videos today and shouted me out. I mean, she talked about me at length. It was so nice. And so that was really cool. And then she also talked about Amelia Fart, who I love, and said that she had found her through my videos. So that was awesome, because I love Amelia. And, yeah, it was just a good day overall. It was just a fantastic day. I love days like this. You know, I always, like, I have this friend of mine that I used to work with back in the day, and her mother passed away from cancer, and she would always celebrate the death date. Like the day that her mom died, she always like would celebrate that, right? Like she would celebrate, like she and her family would go and do something that day. Well, had seen this Dr. Phil. Well, Dr. Phil was on Oprah, and they had this woman on there whose daughter had been killed. I've talked about this on here because this is kind of where I got the idea for that book, Trash, if I ever end up writing it. And she talks about how she just can't move on, and it's been like 15 years since her daughter was killed. And Dr. Phil said, can you imagine, you know, instead of celebrating the day that she died, because she kept the room exactly, like her bedroom exactly how it was the day she died, didn't move anything. And he said, do you think instead of celebrating the day that she died, could you instead, you know, celebrate the 18 years that she was alive? And I believe that. Like, I really, in my heart of hearts, believe that, you know, that a lot of times with grieving, we focus so much on the end and the outcomes that happen at the end instead of celebrating the life of that person, that I really like to try to focus on celebrating the life of my mom, you know? Well, I'm coming up on it being 10 years since she passed away, which is a pretty prominent amount of time, you know? And not just for me, the fact that my mom is gone, that it's been 10 years, but just that my life is so profoundly different, you know, since my mom passed away. My aunt is gone, you know, like, I'm not even in the same business that I was back then, anywhere near it. You know, like, I've started YouTube, I've written a book, I met Alex, I've been married for almost 7 years, I have 3 dogs I didn't have then. You know, like, my life is so different, and I've been really kind of thinking about, on the date that my mom passed away, which is the 14th, like, doing something to celebrate my mom's life, but also the inspiration that her death gave me. Because, you know, and I haven't talked about my mom's death on here in quite some time, and, you know, I did, and then I would talk about it all the time, and then people would say, I'm so tired of hearing about your mom's death. All you talk about is your mom's death. I mean, then don't watch, you know, but I haven't, and I think it's because, like, through, like, talking about it in meetings, and with my sponsor, my past sponsor, and like also working on it in counseling, and then also on my vlog. The vlog has been highly cathartic for me as far as talking about it, you know, and really grieving actively. I don't find the need to talk about the specifics of it anymore, really. Like, I just don't. Like, I do tell the story sometimes, but, like, I feel like I've kind of, like, moved past that, so to speak. And, not like I'm forgetting her, because that's not the case. I never will. But I've kind of moved past, I think, you know, the denial stage, the sad phase, the anger phase, all that kind of stuff, to, you know, to the acceptance phase, where I'm just okay with it at this point. You know, it just is life. It's part of life. But at the same point, like, I learned so much from my mother's passing. You know, she was 64 when she passed away, and that's a short life for a lot of people, you know? It's a good life for a lot of people, but it's also a very short life. There were a lot of things my mom wanted to do that she never finished, you know, she never accomplished. And not just big, huge things either, like this kind of career, or moving here, or visiting there, bucket list kind of stuff, but also just in, like, seeing a movie that she always wanted to see, or reading a book that she'd always wanted to read. And I don't take that stuff lightly anymore, you know? When there are things that I want to do, I do them. When there are foods I want to try, I try them. You know, when there are places that I want to go, if I can, I go, you know? It's about experiencing life, and that's something, that's a gift my mother gave me, you know, through her death, that I would never have. I was very fearful. The social anxiety was just, it just was on me all the time. You know, and the other thing I think is that I learned from her passing really the brevity of life, and truly, truly how short life really is, you know, and that life is really what we make it. You know, I've talked a lot about how, like, when I was sitting there that night with her in the hospital room, you know, after she had passed away and everybody left and let me have a few minutes with my mom, and I just sat there and I was holding her hand, you know, and I just had this overwhelming sense of, well, I haven't talked about this on here for a while, but people always ask. The reason why I say passing and not died, which, I mean, I sometimes say died, like my mother died, or she, you know, but the reason why I say passing is, to me, I really do believe that, I believe in an afterlife, and I really do believe that we pass on from one to the other. And I also it felt very much like me in her presence that she passed on. It felt that way to me. I don't even know how to explain it in words. It just was a feeling that I had, you know? But I also had this feeling sitting there of, we're born, we live, we die, and what we put in the middle of it is ours. You know, it's exclusively ours to do with what we want to do with. And that's kind of a simple idea, but kind of the meaning of life to some extent. You know, what will your life speak of at the end? Like, what do you want it to say about who you are, you know? And there are some days I honestly don't think much about it, you know, that I just live my life. I mean, I'm not a bullshit artist. I'm not going to sit here and act like 24 hours a day I'm just like esoterically thinking about like, oh, my life and, oh, well, I'm going to be this person. No. You know, I watch bullshit shows and read books that don't have a lot of importance, and that's okay, because life is to be enjoyed as well, I think. I really do believe that. But I truly think that the meaning of life is remaining teachable, learning as we grow, and at the end being able to look back and saying, at whatever age, that was a life worth living. You know, what did I accomplish? Did I do some good things? Yes. Was I nice to some people? Yes. When I wasn't nice to some people, did I learn from it and try to be better? Yes. Did I have some great vacations and travel some really cool places? Yes. Did I have some special moments with different people? Absolutely. You know, did I experience what this world has to offer me to my capacity, given my surroundings? Yes. Because not everybody can, you know, get on a plane and go to Paris for New Year's Eve. That's just not a reality for a lot of people, you know? But in your reality, are you living the best life possible? And if not, the question is why? Why aren't you? Because life is a gift. You know, it really is. And, not to be taken advantage, or not to be taken for granted. You know, and I remember, like, with my dog, back then, I would, you know, because my ex and I had broken up 7 months before, and, so it's just me and the dog. And when my mom was sick and she passed away, by that point, I was kind of like going back and forth between the condo and my apartment. But because my dog was there, I wouldn't, you know, like, not stay at the apartment. So I would, like, go to my mom's condo during the day and clean stuff up and look through boxes and maybe take a nap over there or something. But then I would always come back to the apartment. And at night, you know, I started this blog back then that was called Suicide Birds and Seahorses, because I'd had this dream. It was based on this dream that I had. And that my mother, like, I had followed my mother. Okay, so this is the weirdest dream in the entire world. It's a true story. I had a dream that I was sitting at my mother's graveside, and that I saw this, what is that called? Not a horseshoe, but a seahorse that had a red velvet top hat. And he was talking to me, and he jumped in to my mother's grave that was, like, open. It wasn't sealed over. And so I jumped in after him, because he said he knew where my mom was, and I followed him, and all of a sudden I was underwater. Like, there was, like, the book Water Babies, which somebody gifted me last year, which was awesome. And then there was a movie based on Water Babies, which was, like, this English book back in the day, and it was about this kid that was a chimney sweep, and he was, like, on the run. But in the movie, when he jumped into the water, he became a cartoon character, and then the whole thing, like, was underwater. I'm sure that's where this dream came from, because as soon as I jumped into the water, I was a cartoon character. This was all in my dream. And I was following this seahorse. And my mom was, like, way ahead of me, and I was trying to find her underwater. You know, she was under the ocean. And this road just got so bad, I don't know why. So anyway, and she was looking for the Chimes of Freedom in my dream. That's a Bob Dylan song. It was one of my mom's favorite Bob Dylan songs. And And so she was searching for the chimes of freedom. And so we were all going for the, towards the chimes of freedom. Well, I had this dream. So that's where it all came from. Anyway, and Suicide Birds is a reference to a book that I was writing at the same time about these two little girls. And their mother was a heroin addict. Sometimes I think about still going back to that book and working on it, but their mother was a heroin addict, and she passes away at the very beginning of the book, and they don't know what to do with her, and she's in this trailer over 4th of July weekend, and they're just very innocent, and the main character's like 14, and her sister's like 8, and doesn't really talk, and she's like selectively mute, and so anyway, at the very end, their grandma picks them up, and is like taking them back to her house, and they have no relationship with this woman. They don't know her, and the grandmother kind of shouts out because this bird flies in front of the car. I had seen like this bird fly in front of the car at the time. Grammatically, the book should be called Suicidal Birds, but I always called it Suicide Birds. I don't know why. And because I always used to wonder, like, when birds do that, like, what is that? Is that like taking a risk in life, or is that suicidal behavior? And a lot of times, I think the two can be misinterpreted, That a lot of times with overdoses, drug overdoses, people wonder if they were suicides, when a lot of times they had nothing to do with that whatsoever. But I do think that with addiction, we're slowly trying to kill ourselves. My counselor said that to me, and I didn't want to believe it, but I think in retrospect it was the truth. But anyway, so that's where the Suicide Birds part comes of that blog. But when I was writing that blog, I would drive around at night, and I would go to the gas station, I'd get a cup of coffee, and I would listen to music, and I would drive around, and then I would come home, and I would just write. Like, I would put on a movie in the background for my dog, Griffin, to sit there and listen to. And then, he would just sit on the floor. It was so cute. And he would just, like, listen and look at the TV. And there was this one night that I was sitting there and I was typing at the computer at, like, I had, like, a little kitchen table in the dining room area. I wonder what happened to my table. I wonder what I did with that. I don't remember. I must have thrown it away. It was this red table. But anyway, he was sitting there, and Charlotte's Web, the one with Julia Roberts, was on. And I was just kind of like looking at the TV, and he was like sitting, literally, he would sit in front of TVs. It was the cutest thing. And just like listen to the sounds, and when dogs barked. I would put on 101 Dalmatians, and at that midnight growl part, he would just cock his head, and he had so much personality. And so there was a part where it was, I really believe that animals are very perceptive, just so you know. But there was the part where Charlotte is going to die, and she says to Wilbur, and he says, I don't want you to die, Charlotte. And she said, but we all die, Wilbur. It's the cycle of life. We're born, we live, we die. And I swear, I wrote this on the blog. At the moment that she said that, Griffin turned around and looked at me. I mean, like, looked right at me, and then turned his head back towards the TV. It was the most bone-chilling, but comforting, weird feeling. Like, I was supposed to hear that message. And then what was weird was that, and my mother loved the story Charlotte's Web, too, so that would have been kind of a weird coincidence, But then, later, Alex and I started dating that August. And, like, real soon, I don't know when the movie would have come out, but we went and saw the movie Up. We saw, like, the 3D version of it, the Disney movie Up, about the guy who puts the balloons on his house, which is really funny because Alex, is from Venezuela and had visited Angel Falls when he was a kid. And Angel Falls is actually in the movie. That's the waterfall. It's Angel Falls in Venezuela. So anyway, we were seeing this movie, and I had to have just, like, this weird mom day. Like, it's kind of hard to explain until you've gone through it, but, like, you just have days where you're just kind of like, if you're out there, mom, like, I'm sure if you haven't had a close friend or a parent die, you kind of do the same thing. You kind of talk to them in your head. I was like, mom, if you're out there somewhere, like, just give me a sign. Let me know you're okay. And so we were in this movie, and we were watching it. And I just had this weird feeling at this one part of the movie. I was like, something's about to happen that I'm supposed to hear. Like, I had this really raw feeling. And it was the part at the end where he finds her scrapbook, and she's written in it, thank you for the adventure of our life, now have your own. Now go have your own. And it was so bizarre. It was like, I really felt like that message was from my mom. Like I was supposed to hear it that day. And I know that sounds crazy. And I know, hey, listen, the coincidence of the fact that I just happened to be at a movie that had to do with grief, you know, I get it, I know. But like for me that day, it was like I was supposed to hear that. So, you know, it's weird because I like, you know, I would come home and I would write that blog every day, and it was really, really cathartic for me. And, it was just a really healing part of my life, even though I didn't even realize, I don't think at the time, that the things I was doing were really healing to my life, you know? But so much has changed from who I was as that person then. You know, this very scared individual that was afraid to take risks, that was afraid to do anything, that was really, quite frankly, afraid to live. You know, to some degree, my mother had to pass away for me to really live. You know, not that for 1 second would I not take her back. If my mother could be alive and I would never have learned one thing that I learned in the last 10 years and she would be alive and healthy, I would exchange that in a minute. You know, if she could be back tomorrow, healthy and alive, and I would never have learned one of the things I learned in the last 10 years, I would take her back. But, you know, at the same time, it's like, things have to happen in life, you know? Things happen, and maybe things don't happen for a reason, but maybe we make a reason out of why the things happened. Maybe we can find meaning in things that don't necessarily have meaning, you know? And the way that I look at it is, if at the end of our lives, all this meaning that we've applied to our lives doesn't have any, there's no reality to it, and life is just nothing, it's just blackness forever and ever and ever when we die, well then, what have I lost by applying meaning to things? The real question is, what have I gained? And I've gained a lot, you know? I've gained a lot by looking at things and saying, well, maybe this happened to teach me a lesson to be a better person, to be a nicer person, to be more compassionate, to be kinder, to admit my faults, even if the other person doesn't, to take ownership over my part and clean my side of the street. My husband, I could not believe this. We were talking the other night, and he looked at me and he said something about, you know, all I can do is clean my side of the street. And I was like, did you just say that? After 10 years of me saying that, did you just say that? I was like, all right, hey. That's the one cool thing about marriage is you start rubbing off on each other and you kind of start becoming the same person to some degree, you know? You start thinking a lot the same way. It's cool, though. We are so confused about this trip that we are taking. We cannot figure it out. Mexico was real cheap for us to go to. I just totally swung topics, but Mexico is really cheap for us to go to and stay at the exact same place that we stayed at last year, which we loved, for 7 nights. But I'm a little scared with all the travel advisories to go to Mexico right now, and I like to play it safe. So we've decided that we're not going to do that. But we have like 4 different places we're thinking about going to over a month different span. We're looking at different weeks. 2 of them, Alex can't be gone because of work commitments that he has. So it's like we don't really know what to do. We're like really struggling, like trying to find the perfect week of when we're going to do this and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. So, I don't want to do it too late in the summer because I do want to go to Vegas for our anniversary, even if it's only for 2 or 3 nights. I think that would be fun to like go, take in a show, meet up with his friend, go out to, you know, some clubs or something for a night, have a nice dinner, a little romance, stay at the Cosmopolitan. We can get a room at the Cosmopolitan for not very expensive. That's like the exact same room that we stayed in for our wedding, which was like a wraparound suite, if we go during the week. Which, I mean, I don't really care if we go to Vegas during the week, you know? I'm not one of those people that has to go places on weekends. Like, to me, I don't love going out anyway. So if we go on a Wednesday to a Friday or a Tuesday, Monday through a Thursday, I'm completely fine with that. Monday through a Thursday is perfect for me, actually. It is so warm in this car, but it feels so good because it's not like heat, you know? It's like, not like heat like from the car. It's like heat from outside, and it's 76 right now. So awesome. I love it. makes me feel alive and just so, I love it. I love summer and warm weather. Oh, I didn't realize I'm at 29 minutes and 45 seconds, so it's going to stop in 5 seconds, and I will be back. Okay, I'm back. Okay, here's the situation. My parents went away for a week. I've been listening to Whitney Houston all day long. I'm kind of getting a little Whitney Houstoned out, to be honest with you. I really have been listening to her all day, though. I have nothing, and I will always love you, and run to you, and I want to dance with somebody. I want to feel the heat with somebody. So emotional. I love Whitney Houston. Oh, the music of my youth. Well, she wasn't even really my youth. She was more like my 20s. This bottle back here is rattling. Does that ever drive you crazy when you have a bottle back there that rattles? This water bottle. Ooh, it's full still. I guess I didn't need to buy a bottle of water. It's kind of fun driving out in the country and like you see little bunny rabbits like running around the side or things. Or coyotes like I saw the other night that I thought was maybe a dog. It's so weird to think it's May already. May of 2018. I remember writing 1980 on a paper. I always have this memory of this. Like I was sitting at this desk in school and it was like I wrote 1980. I don't know why I remember that. You know, Sylvia Brown, the sidekick who I make fun of. Yes, Montel. I always imitate Sylvia Brown because I love Sylvia Brown. But anyway, I watched her like all the time, okay? I mean, I watched her all the time. My ex and I used to always watch her on Wednesdays. We would like record it and then we would watch it that night. Montel with Sylvia Brown. I totally believed her, okay? I thought she was the real deal. I read The Other Side and Back, or whatever the book was called, and it changed my life. And in that book, she says, well, I'll tell that in a second, but there was this episode of Montel, okay? This was the last time I ever watched Sylvia Brown. And this woman stood up. You can find this episode. It is on YouTube. It's called something like Sylvia Brown Fraud or something like that. And this woman stands up. I swear I was watching this episode in my living room, okay? When devastation occurred. And we're sitting there and this woman's like, yeah, Sylvia, my husband died and they never found his body. And she's like, he's in water. And the woman's like, excuse me? And she's like, he's in water. That's why they can't find him. And the woman's like, no. She was like, my husband was a firefighter in 9/11 and he went into the towers and then he never came out. And without missing a beat, Sylvia Brown's like, yeah, like he's in water, like the fire hoses. He drowned in the fire. It could happen, Montel. It can happen. And it's like, oh my God. Like, Sylvia, please. I was done at that point. I was so devastated. I was like, she is the fake of the world. And then Teresa Caputo and her husband are getting divorced, and that just breaks my heart. And Monica the Medium, I loved, and they took her off the air. And that Tyler Henry, the Hollywood sidekick, is just, I can't watch him. I don't know why. He just gets on my nerves. Like, when they're talking, he's like, and he, like, has no, like, emotional connection to that person whatsoever. Like, they can sit there and be sobbing, and he's like, almost kind of weird. Like, there's something weird about it. Like, some kind of emotional disconnect or something. I don't know what it is. Like, Monica I loved, and that, Williams, what was his name? John Williams? John Edwards. I like John Edwards, too. Everybody thinks they're all a bunch of fake, so, you know, I don't know. Is there just any real psychics out there? I'd love to meet a real psychic that could just tell me all kinds of things. But anyway, Sylvia Brown, in her book, The Other Side and Back, says that we work with our spirit guide and our spirit group. We have like a spirit group of people, right? Which is very interesting because if you read the book, Many Lives, Many Masters, that's about this psychiatrist, this something Weiss, Brian Weiss, I think his name is, who is like this renowned psychiatrist. He was taking a woman back and doing he was taking this woman back like into her childhood. about like some trauma that she had, and then all of a sudden she comes out and she's in another life, right? Well, he ended up taking her back to like through like 60 lives that she had. The book is so interesting to read, right? And I mean, he's still like, I think he might have passed away now, but he was like, up to the time of his death, or if he is still alive, a renowned psychiatrist that like did past life regressions with this woman. And Sylvia talks in her, and so like one of the things that he talks about in his books is that basically we have a spirit group of several people or entities, and that we just change roles from life to life, and really we're meant to learn things in each life experience until you've learned what you need to learn, and then you don't go back to Earth anymore. And Sylvia Browne had a very similar theory to that, that we basically make a blueprint for our lives of the things that we want to happen before we come here, like who we're born to, what lessons we live, what lessons we learn, you know, all of the things before we get there. And so that deja vu is when you are exactly at the moment in your life that you're supposed to be, right? Like you're exactly at that moment. Obviously there's free will, but that things will pop up, and like, you know, really profound memories that you have will stick with you because those were blueprints that you remember from making before you came here, right? And I've always wondered, because I've always, like, I cannot get that memory of that writing that 1980 down. I'm wondering, like, and nothing, like, you know, really, that was the year that my parents got divorced, but, like, that wouldn't have been, I only know that because I just now, like, in my head was like, did that, something happen that year? And that would have been the year that my parents got divorced, but that wouldn't have been why I remember 1980 sitting in a classroom, you know, like, writing down something, 1980. I don't know why I remember it. It's so weird, but I've always wondered if that was, like, a blueprint moment for me, you know? And then she also said that we, like, make, like, 5 or 6 exit points for when, like, we'll pass away. And we get to pick in those moments, like, if we're really ready to go. And what's really weird is that, now, y'all know I love the psychics, okay? So if you don't buy into that stuff, hey, just, it's cool. Then just see it as a story. But, like, several of the psychics I've gone to can narrow, like, they'll say, like, between the ages of 22 and 23, it almost seems like you died. And, like, you started your life over. Like, this palm reader one time looked at my lifeline on my, and she said, you have a split in your lifeline. And she goes, I've never really seen something like this before. The only time I've ever seen this is when people have either had near-death experiences, have died and come back, or people that have gotten sober. She's like, that's the only 2 things I've ever seen this on before, where it looks like somebody died and came back. Well, I had, like, you know, what I don't know, maybe was a near-death experience that night. And I've talked about that on here before, where I thought somebody was driving my car and I wasn't driving it, and, like, I was just sitting back, and it was very bizarre. But, you know, it's interesting to even, like, in the, you know, philosophical, to talk about, like, getting sober as rebirth, you know, or like a new life. I always thought that was weird. But I like thinking of things that way. I like thinking that, you know, I like believing in spirituality and magic and, you know, all kinds of different stuff out there. I think that makes the world a different place. I love, you know, conspiracy theory. People always want to know why, like, I'm such a conspiracy theorist and all this kind of stuff, or I listen to Coast AM, or why, like, I really love, like, you know, hearing about Bigfoot or Loch Ness Monster or UFOs or whatever. Well, part of it for me is that I don't rule out anything, because it just kind of makes life a little bit more exciting to have that kind of talk about it or whatever. Plus, I am a believer that anything is possible, you know, like, I really do believe that who am I to say there's no Loch Ness Monster or no UFOs? Like, have you ever met somebody and they're like, there's probably one of you out there right now watching this, and they're like, maybe probably a lot more than just one, and they're like, there's no such thing as UFOs, we're the only ones in the universe. Okay, that is a really sad way to look at the world. Like, you have just really made the world very, very small. And even if there really is no possibility for it, which even Stephen Hawking said there was, then, you know, it really, isn't it so sad that he just passed away not too long ago? But anyway, I don't know, it just makes the world small, and I don't want the world to be that small for me. I want to, like, you know, be able to think that shit, Santa Claus could still exist to some degree, although I don't believe in that. But you know what I mean? Like, although, did you ever see the Christmas movie with Jaclyn Hill that was in Charlie's Angels? And she thought the prank was being played on her, and she and her kids went to the North Pole because they were blasting the North Pole for oil. I loved that movie. It's called The Night something. The Night They Saved Christmas. I love that movie, that Christmas movie. But anyway, I just like thinking about all that kind of stuff, you know, mystery and magic and spirituality. And even though they're different categories, they don't weave together, you know, it's still a cool way to look at the world. You know, that, well, what if? I like that stuff. It makes it interesting. I think I've talked for like 40 minutes now total. So I am going to get off here because I would like to try to listen to the rest of my audiobook tonight and finish it and get a good night's sleep so I am prepared and relaxed to enjoy my day tomorrow. So I'm going to get off here. Put in the comment section below something that you believe in, whether it's Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot or something I've never talked about in my videos or some conspiracy or something. Put in the comment section below. I'd like to hear what you guys, you know, psychics, whatever, what interests you. All right, I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.